They were pretty much white.
Well, some of these shows depart so much from historical context anyway that maybe it doesn't make any difference. But I think just generally we've got a problem in this country with portraying history in its correct sense. You can't change history. And I think it's about the motivation. If the motivation is to sort of to make a political point, then I think it's wrong.
What I find kind of tedious about people finding this instant jaw-droppingly stupid, Jesus was portrayed by somebody who's half Slovak and half Irish. Moses was portrayed in the Exodus by an Englishman. So, you know, same with Anne Boleyn, you know, was portrayed by Natalie Portman, who is Jewish. So if this is the one thing that's getting people angry, then there's something deeper within that rage, because I think Hollywood's been doing that, where people...
When you say something deeper, do you think there is a hidden racism and people are complaining about this?
Well, I think for some, maybe, yes. I can't speak for everybody because this news dropped today. I don't know why they are thinking that it's egregious, but there absolutely must be some underlying racism if this is the only one that you're upset about.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. It's 11 o'clock, which means it's time for tomorrow's newspapers tonight. Join us over the next hour to find out why this is going to be banned from your child's curriculum, why these women are victims of their own biology, and why this young man has signed his own death warrant. I'm Simon Evans. Tonight, I've got comedians Josh Howie and Nadine McQueen taking you through tonight's top stories. This is Headliners. Hello and welcome to Headliners, your first look at tomorrow's top stories with three comedians. Before we dive in, let's take a quick look at what Josh and Nadine will have to work with on Tuesday's front pages. The Telegraph. PM knights Khan in reward for failure. The Daily Mail, PM's reward for failure as Sadiq Khan is knighted. Sounds like the same story. The Times, public sector plan to trade pensions for higher pay. The Sun, now we want justice for our Liam. The I newspaper, post office scandal victims are given honours, but wait for compensation still goes on. And the Daily Star, eggheads, we've cracked baldness. Do apologise, some of those papers seem not to have appeared on your screens, but hopefully we'll have that sorted by the time we come back to them around halfway through. So that's the front pages fully looked at. Let's take a look at the Daily Mail in a first degree of detail. Josh.
Yes, so PM's reward for failure as Sadiq Khan is knighted. Of course, Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London. I appreciate for our viewers across this wide and great land, a story about London starting off might annoy them, but I also think a lot of people are annoyed by Sadiq Khan because he has not done his job, arguably. He's been mayor here in London since 2016. Since then, knife crime's gone up 61%, and London is just a worse place than before he came in.
Would you have any particular failures that you feel particularly strongly about?
Well, I feel like his definitely, when it comes to like knife crime, you can see generally in the streets that you know, muggings and whatnot have definitely increased.
Yeah.
And then I think there's been like a 70% increase in council tax that goes to City Hall, whether that money's been well spent. I just remember, for me, I remember seeing him actually in a press conference, this is probably about 4 years ago, saying knife crime's better.
Yeah,
and then there was someone in there going, well, actually, look, these are the figures, and he just wouldn't accept them. And you're like, if you can't accept the problem...
Knife crime has improved in one specific regard, which is that the paramedics teams are incredibly good now at saving people's lives, stopping them bleeding out on the scene. And it's disguising the amount of violence that's taking place, apparently. I don't know. Aideen, have you got a view on this?
Well,
You don't have to go down the knife crime route. There are other aspects to being mayor, I guess.
But there's it seems a bit premature. He's already doing the job.
Yes.
Are you meant to give somebody a prize for just doing their job? I don't think so. Is this either it's going to encourage him to be better, like the way I would give Student of the Year when I was a teacher to the worst child in the class, or it's going to make him lazy. Who knows? But
I always suspected teachers of doing that, but it was never made official. I was thwarted time and again, and I was quite convinced. I think it is interesting, and I don't know whether I think you're absolutely right. You should not be given the award like a knighted while you're still in the job. That very much feels the Southgate is the other famous one, and even though he didn't actually win a trophy, he got us to a couple of semis and a final. I think that was quite impressive, and now he's out. That is the time to give it. But also, with Sadiq Khan, I think there's something slightly more ephemeral, intangible about being a good or a bad mayor, and Khan is so controversial. He has failed to bring one of the world's great cities together. There are an awful lot of people who feel he's a divisive character. He often seems bad-tempered, high-handed with certain interviewers and so on, and in various... Do you want to mean
No,
this?
no, totally. No, he's not a warm guy, and he's focusing constantly on this kind of diversity thing, yet at the same time, arguably, you've got these marches going on every week under his watch.
And also really quite unnecessarily aggressive rhetoric towards Donald Trump, which obviously not surprising that he feels that way, but it seems unnecessary, I think, as the mayor of a... What do you think about that?
I suppose, well, we want, diplomacy is important. I mean, the mayoral title, it's interesting. He's not a fun guy. Like, at least Boris Johnson, I don't think he was a good PM, but he was a good mayor. He was a
great
fun mayor.
Unfortunately, he was a classic example of the Peter principle. He should not have been promoted beyond that stage, but he did well at mayor, and they thought, oh, maybe he could...
I know, but there are a few Boris Johnson projects that were kind of wasted millions.
The high-pressure hoses.
And
they should have been allowed to use those. They should have changed the legislation. It should have been like one of those things where you go, well, I've bought it now. They go, oh, go on then.
Yeah.
The Daily Telegraph, Aideen, I think you have.
So we have the PM knighting again, and then we have public sector takes 3 times as many mental health sick days. So this is interesting to me because when I worked for the public sector as a teacher, I was an ardent social...
Do all your bits start with this?
Well, yes, they do.
Yeah,
all your
that's
mental,
all right.
All your
That's
mental
good.
health stuff.
2 more, and then I'll finish with the teaching one. But yeah, so I was an ardent socialist. I was a member of the Labour Party, and as soon as I became self-employed, I started thinking things like, do we really need ambulances?
Well, there is some truth to that, isn't there? There really is. I have not had a job. I mean, this is a job, I guess, but, I don't know, maybe do we have sick pay? Maybe we do have sick pay. I've never really investigated it, but I have basically been self-employed for 27 years. I had, I think, COVID about a week before Christmas, certainly a really nasty flu, and I was like, pretty close to...
You came in and gave it to all of us?
I gave it to everybody. I brought it round. I handed it round. No, but I had gigs. I had writing jobs. None of them would have been paid for, and so I didn't miss a single day's work. There is no doubt I would have had a week off work.
I suppose it's up to us to get health insurance and, insurance against sick pay and et cetera, which I haven't gotten yet.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it does... Definitely in the public sector, there seems to be more of a trend towards duvet days and self-care, and it's a very Gen Z thing as well. We've rebranded things. Like, it used to be saying, back in my day, we used to pretend that a grandparent was dead and then you could get a sick day. But now they just say, I have to mind myself, self-care. I have to watch my boundaries.
Been triggered. I was triggered the other day.
Triggered.
Anything else on the Daily Telegraph? They've obviously got the same story about nights.
Well, big story. Blair ignored migrant warning to open borders. So this is some documents that have been released. Yeah. And essentially, John Prescott and Jack Shaw were like, don't do it. This was when Poland and when it was opening up the borders. And we were sort of the one country that didn't put in any kind of... traditional controls, because Blair was persuaded of the economic interests by Blunkett, and that arguably, even though there is an argument, of course, economically, that has led to a lowering of wages in certain fields. Also, I would also argue that Polish people have actually contributed a lot, and so the economics suggests that the Polish
I've never met a Polish woman or a man on a sick day. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. They get on with it.
Work hard.
Anyway, the point is, but what it did do is lead then arguably to Brexit.
That's what I was going to say. I was, not to boast, but I was on, this will be like one of your school days anecdotes, I was on BBC Question Time once back in the old days, and I was sat next to Diane Abbott, and I said exactly that. It was about 2018. We were all discussing Brexit. The exact deal hadn't been made, and I said that I thought Blair's attitude to immigration people watching the demographics change in front of their eyes, but it being denied. Diane Abbott accused me of spreading conspiracy theories. She specifically said conspiracy theories, but I was quite sure it was the case. And I think you're absolutely right. What is always important with these things is that politicians acknowledge what's going on as well. It's when it comes out that afterwards that they have
and
this kind of
explain
plan.
why and explain, look, guys, if you want to retire and have a certain amount, we need more. If you're not having enough babies, this is what we have to do.
Yeah, they should have been telling people that in the 1980s, though, of course, when that's when they should have had the babies. But
the olden days of the party political broadcast where the Prime Minister would come out with pipe in hand and tell the nation what needs to be done are gone. Maybe we need a bit more of that. But I would say that emigration of Eastern European people has been a huge boon to Britain and to Ireland as well. And to my school when I was teaching.
Have a look at the Times, Josh. Anything new?
Public sector plan to trade pensions for higher pay. This is an interesting idea that get more money now and you wouldn't get as much money on the back end. But there's the unions are sort of split on it because, of course, it's a bit dangerous. They can go, oh, we're going to get loads of money now, but in the long term...
And then when you get there, they try and renegotiate.
Exactly.
This is what I've tried to do, and it doesn't work.
No.
You have spent the money.
Yes, it is gone. But we have a pensions crisis emerging in this country, partly from what we just talked about before.
The only way out of it is war, I'm afraid, at this point, you know, for the West, generally speaking.
Well, get all the old people to fight?
No, well, that would be one possible way of doing it, yeah. I mean, we potentially had a solution with COVID, didn't we? And we bottled it, but...
I hope you're being deeply sarcastic.
Yeah. I do think that we have this kind of the pensions black hole, not just in Britain, across the West. I mean, the Social Security pay, they say, has been the third rail in America for about 20 years. Nobody wants to acknowledge it. No one wants to talk about it. But the, what do they call it, the dependent ratio.
Well,
this is the thing,
Theresa May wanted to deal with it and, of course, sort of back down because of the immediate protests.
Third rail, as I say. The I paper, Nadine.
Post office scandal victims are given honours, but wait for compensation still goes on. So this is possibly quite patronising. We'll give you a knighthood, but you have no money. The cheque is in the post, so in 5 to 7 working days, it's going to be stuck in a depot for about 3 months. Is it? I mean, I'm sure some people are happy about this, but I saw the documentary a few months ago that they had, and it was really horrific what those people went through. And I'm not a fan of compensation culture per se, but I think they have a legitimate demands there and a really legitimate need for compensation.
Yes.
Morale, everything, monetary, So this does a bit for the morale, but...
No, you're right. As compensatory cases go, it's fairly clear-cut that they lost out financially, apart from anything else. I mean, you can at least put a price on it as well. You
could put the price on it, but you're actually going to get that price and... No. But, sir, enjoy the sir.
Sadly. And finally, 30 seconds to discuss everything that's on the front cover of the Daily Star.
Well,
we've done it yet again.
This really should have been the top story.
Yes.
Eggheads, we've cracked baldness. We kind of hear this every few months, but it's
Did they get in touch with you for this?
They haven't, no. It does look like me. Now, it's very frustrating now I've embraced the baldness that now... Suddenly there's a cure.
How are you finding it? I mean, it's only been a couple of weeks.
I remember you said you've got to wear something to bed because you get freezing at night. I've totally had that. I haven't got a little hat yet, but I am waking up freezing.
You want the nice cashmere or at the very least like a proper nice wool one, and you should get the ones that climbers wear inside their helmets.
OK,
they're very nice and quite chic.
I'll get like some ski mask just to scare my wife.
Imagine you are like somebody from a Gilbert and Sullivan drama with a little wee winky cap and a candle on a stick, is it? Saying goodnight to your 7 daughters.
It's fine for the likes of you because you can wear that, anywhere, can't you, with the little ribbon on it and everything?
That's it. I mean, women, we have it all.
Well, see, but would you, if there was a cure right now, boom, get your hair back, would you do it?
Absolutely, yes.
Oh, you would? Okay.
Yes, I'd probably wear a wig if I thought I could get away with it, to be honest. A toupee. I have occasionally brows.
OK. We'll see if you appear on this.
I had a fabricant-style one in Edinburgh for a while. I was wearing for the show because I was doing a Holly Willoughby impression. But the horrible truth was... are you okay? You remember that bit?
Yeah.
But the horrible truth was, whenever I put it on, I kind of preferred myself
you
in
look
it.
better,
Yeah,
didn't you?
I was like, if I just keep wearing it, will people stop saying anything after a while? But you can't get away with it. That's the front pages fully looked at. Coming up, decolonising the colon and the rest of the anatomy too. This is Headliners, only on GB News. See you shortly.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Joined by international life coach Cheryl Findlay, who has joined forces with a Liverpool business owner, Kate Hill, of sustainable sportswear brand Lola Star, to empower women and inspire women across the nation. And to celebrate this partnership with the new Lola Star collection, the two will be hosting an exclusive event next Saturday.
Sportswear brand was launched after, well, your story. You lost how much weight?
So 16 stone, which is over 220 pounds, which
Wow.
I know is quite significant. But during that kind of decade-long journey, I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about what it takes to be successful, to be happy, to be well, and to just live an incredible life every day.
Are you giving them goals to work towards or helping them structure their life?
Yeah, so I don't give out goals, absolutely not. It's all about whatever an individual wants. So what we do to begin with is we understand, like, where are you now? Where are you thriving? Where do you feel really happy and excited in your life? And what's lacking? Like, where would you like to feel better? Where would you like to improve? And then we take it from there.
I'd love to take that on board. I'd love to be my true self and fulfil my potential. So have you got any practical tips on how to do that?
Yeah, so we start with clarity, right? Like, you need to know, it's such a busy, fast-paced world we live in. There's so much sensory overload. You know, it'd be so easy to be distracted. So we need to kind of quiet all that noise down and start with, where do I want to focus? Pick 2 or 3 things. Where do I want to focus? And then we define the goal. What would I like that area of my life to look, not just look like, but feel like? And then we take it from there. So that's where you would start. I actually had a cancer diagnosis in 2019.
Oh.
And I just decided if I was going to be lucky enough to be on the other side of it, I wasn't going to play small anymore.
GB News, the people's...
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
And welcome back to Headliners. I'm Simon Evans, still joined tonight by Josh Howie and Nadine McQueen. So, Josh, we go straight into the deep end with Tuesday's telegraphy, and the blood pressure is set to burst. Labour considers making the science curriculum less Western-centric and instead celebrates a diverse scientific global community.
Yeah, this is the worst story we've had for a while along these lines. Labour urged to drop Western-centric science in school curriculum, so they have opened up the whole curriculum. Now they're in power, and you know what? Everybody worried about, and I thought, no, they're not going to do any of this stupid stuff. Like, this is all very 2019, 2020, Black Lives Matter, whatever.
Yeah.
And they have jumped in seemingly with both feet. There's led by feminist Professor Becky Francis, and there's who's a policy expert who previously criticised Blair for having an obsession with academic achievement.
Yeah.
It's like, that should tell you everything. What's terrifying about this article, so they've sort of sent out questionnaires to a bunch of academic institutions, and they've all come back with the most insane suggestions. And
one of them here is called the Royal Society of Biology, which you would imagine would be a fairly august and serious and restrained. I mean, they're as bad as any of them.
All of them. There's the Royal Statistics Society. The Royal Society wants a more diverse and equitable model for mathematics education. What? It's all mental.
And the thing I think, and this will come... We are, of course, aware that we have somebody with education experience. My memory of learning maths, biology and the sciences generally was not a procession of dead white men. It was a succession of theories, more or less proven to be true, and this is what we currently know. Occasionally a name like Darwin might crop up, but it wasn't like, and then we invented this, and then we discovered this, aren't we great? It wasn't a flag-waving exercise.
I think this is... I actually like this. I think this is a very interesting way of exploring it. I think it's a bit... you're a bit hasty in condemning it because we don't actually know what they're doing or how they're introducing this. I mean, I think it's very
Only condemn it after it's become law.
Exactly.
OK.
Yeah. I mean, it is very interesting to study how certain people or certain countries advanced more than others. I mean, like, you know, China was very advanced. They had China vessels, and they didn't bother really with glass, whereas because the West hadn't been as advanced, when it did get glass, you know, optical sciences came up. I mean, even take Ireland and Scotland. Ireland is a very Catholic country. Everything was in the Latin Mass, nothing was in the vernacular.
Yes.
You know, Scotland embraced Methodism, therefore they had the Mass in the English, and then education thrived. I mean, the things that Scottish people invented as a result: penicillin, telephone, steam engine, raincoat, golf, ptarmigan, and the hypodermic needle, ironically.
Very interesting inventions, but can I just
Ireland
interrupt on this?
crack.
The point is that that's all history of science. That's a separate subject. That's not the same as actually learning science. I don't remember it being important to know that Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin accidentally. I think that was the sort of thing my mother told me rather than you would learn at school.
It would be in... we used to do a lot of fun facts books. So when you were finished your work, I'm sure you were the good boys in school, the both of you.
I was.
You would get a... Josh was at the back, you know, smoky spliffs and all. But... you know, you would give the children the fun facts and you learn these things, and it's incidental, interesting knowledge. I don't think we should... I think you're worried that some feminist is going to come up and say time is nothing but a construct of the patriarchy. The needles of a clock are just bludgeoning femininity. Like, I don't think it's going to be like that.
Well, I mean, look at the Royal Society of Biology here. They're saying here, science is universal and it's been carried out in all cultures at all ages. No.
No.
That is an absolute lie. I'm sorry, that is just a lie. And to try and pretend that, again, it's the sort of equalisation of all cultures. Of course, there has been science in China and whatever. To say it's universal, I studied anthropology at university, that's just not true. No. And saying things like that, this is from the Royal Society of Biology. They are lying. This is who we look to. This is one of all these institutions here. It shows how corrupted they are, how they've been taken over. Focus on how to teach our children... information and facts.
You don't have to teach them the things that would make... There's no need...
Thank you.
But there is no need within a classroom to expose a diverse, let's say an ethnically diverse classroom, to the fact that only a third of their classroom had ancestors who contributed meaningfully to the history of science. Just teach the science. You don't need to say, and incidentally, this came from the University of Cambridge, like the last 48 things that we taught. So far, nothing from the University of Nairobi. Sorry about that, not our fault. You don't actually have to raise that. You just carry on teaching.
I don't think they're going to go into that much detail. I think it'll be just like, incidentally, the zero was invented in India. Now, do your times tables. I think it's going to be a lot milder than what you're both anticipating.
Possibly. Aideen, poll time in the Mail now, so plenty of salt required. But Starmer is apparently a right-winger compared to most of his party.
Well, this is not a surprise to anybody, really. If you just look at the man, if you were to do a Google image search of centrist dad, there'd be a picture of him, of Keir Starmer, wearing a gilet, drinking a half pint of bitter and updating his LinkedIn profile in the toilet. So, I mean, I'm not surprised at this. It is usually the leaders of Labour are usually more to the right, and the leaders of the Conservatives are usually to the left. It's a pattern that's been there for a while. I mean, he's hardly John Prescott. He was hardly a trade unionist. But...
That's why he's got Angela, isn't it? They always have to have one, don't they? Tony had Prescott and he's got Angela Rayner.
Exactly.
You've got to have someone from the estates.
Yes, Angela Rayner, my doppelganger. But I've been told, which is good. But I don't think people really know where they lie. I mean, have you ever done the political compass?
Yes.
Oh, it's fascinating. And I mean, it's interesting how they say, so they give him a score of 48, they give Nigel Farage 90, which he's leaning almost towards Mussolini over there. Rishi Sunak is 77. And then Diane Abbott scores 4.
Wow.
Which I don't know, does that make her the Dalai Lama or Stalin? I'm not sure, but 4 is...
Well, it's only, as you say, if it's on a political compass, you need an X and a Y coordinate, surely.
Well, no, I don't believe in that anymore. I don't.
Oh, you don't?
Maths.
OK,
no.
right.
Okay, well, I think this is interesting. I don't think that is... I think he is a bit more left than this, like, right in the middle.
I agree.
I think because they get this score from asking his councillors in his constituency, that constituency is their neighbour... He's neighbours with Corbyn... That and their other and Corbyn's other constituency, Haringey, which is my constituency, they're all those councillors. A lot of them are just a bunch of cranks. So for them, anybody is far right.
He's a fascist,
including Starmer, for being somewhat even reasonable. His politics in university and onwards were definitely more on the left side of 48.
Absolutely.
I would put him at I'd put him at a 39.
Peter Hitchens has got his number. Can we briefly mention, it's in the same story, Elon Musk has clashed with Starmer over the idea that no foreign investors are likely to...
so this is people coming over... People were saying, come build a factory in Scotland. And he was like, no, because your government is basically pushing away loads of investment, which is actually not true. The government, they had sort of, come and invest in art, and supposedly a bunch of 63 billion of additional investment from that summit.
OK.
So, actually, I think... And also, I think he's wrong in that a lot of people seem to be investing in the UK because of its stability. Because whatever you might think of this government internally, from the outside, they're in here now for the next 4 years or so. And compared to what's going on in France and whatever, this is actually... We're pretty stable.
Plus, there's lots of real estate.
What you need to do is do what Ireland do, ignore EU laws. You would have been able to stay in the EU if you just ignored everything.
Yes.
And have a corporate tax rate of 12.5%. And then just allow Google and
it's stunning, isn't it?
to do nothing.
And then
fantastic.
The Anglo-Dutch Irish sandwich or something it's called, isn't it? Yes.
With a bit of Maltese sprinkled in as well.
Well, it is fair to say that Musk is perhaps not utterly representative of the international investment class at the moment, but we'll watch this space anyway. The Guardian, Josh, where Joe Biden uses the opportunity of Jimmy Carter's death to slag off his rival, suggesting he should try and be more decent, like what he was.
That's exactly what he does. Yeah, Biden says Trump could learn decency from Jimmy Carter in a tribute address. So when asked... in an interview, he said, what could he learn? He said, decency, decency, decency. I would say maybe he could learn pro plus, pro plus. Anything to stay away.
Do you think he was emphasising or have forgotten he'd said it the first time?
Oh, that might have been... Absolutely, yeah, very good. I wish I'd said
It was
that.
interesting that Jimmy Carter, I mean, he was quite complimentous himself when in Trump's first term, wasn't he? And he was convinced he was no fan of Trump. He was persuaded that he was a Russian
But then Trump
asset.
gave quite a nice sort of soundbite about him and said that they disagreed, but he truly loved and respected his country, and I give him my highest respect and all that, sounding quite presidential. I'm personally not a massive fan of Jimmy Carter. He was obviously a terrible...
Well, he was a pretty terrible president, but I think he was in over his head, wasn't he? He was out of his depth. Funnily enough, he was a kind of proto-Trump in the sense that he was brought in to drain the swamp. He was an outsider. He wasn't at Washington.
A businessman.
Yeah. And went badly the first time around. But he had a great second act, you know. He Peace Accords and so on that he hosted.
Yeah.
You know, well, it was... And then built houses, you know. He became a kindly old man, or like a Tolstoyan sort of saintly figure in his last decade. But I am astonished that they're still asking Biden questions, to be honest, at this point. Don't you feel slightly shocked when you realise he's still technically in charge?
Still in charge of the free world.
They should be asking him what day of the year is it.
Yes, absolutely. Did you get anything nice for Christmas? Meanwhile, Aideen, talking of decency, The Guardian has Trump losing his appeal to justice, if not to his voters.
I know. This is Federal Appeal Court upholds 5 million sexual assault and defamation verdict in setback for President-elect. So he is clearly a sexual deviant, but he has...
No, not necessarily a deviant, a predator.
Predator?
Yes.
What is the difference? Tell me more. You seem very sure
Well,
about
the things for which he predates are not considered to be deviant.
OK.
Yeah, he just wants them without permission.
You should be P. Diddy's lawyer, that's fair play to you. But so I mean, I think it's possibly a reflection that people are so disillusioned with government that they continue to support him. And it is, why do leaders have this weakness for sex? You know, Clinton,
Power.
Kennedy, Trump, power, corrupting power.
A lot of testosterone.
There's a lot.
Look at Caroline
pregnant
Lucas.
after that. And he says, Trump, in a very Trumpian thing, said he denies allegations, claiming he never met Carol and that she wasn't his type, which just shows a very weak understanding of power and sexuality.
But also, it's like the idea would be like, oh no, I would do that kind of thing, but just not to. It's not sort of saying I would find that behaviour morally repugnant.
If she were blonde,
They did actually, I think, slightly change the law in order to be able to bring the case. It was over 20 years ago, would normally have fallen foul of the statute of limitations. I mean, they have stretched it. A lot of his supporters regard it as lawfare, as they call it. You know,
because civil litigation means that he doesn't have immunity.
No.
So regardless of him being president-elect, whatever it is,
he's going to have to cough up.
He's going to have to cough up. It probably will. I wonder if it'll go even further than this.
It's interesting, though, in the Federal Appeals Court, there was a $5 million verdict against him, half of which roughly was for the assault, and the other half, actually, 2/3 for the assault, and 1/3 and the other 2/3 for defaming her in a social media post where he called her allegations a hoax, $3 million for being called a liar on social media, which I would take, to be honest. I'd probably put up with that 3 or 4 times tonight. But in the civil case, $83 million defamation case. I mean, does that not just seem absurd to you? Even if the defamation were, you know, you hold that he wasn't.
I think it should be 70 million.
I mean,
very reasonable.
I suppose they want to make it sting, but still.
Yeah, no, it's silly.
I mean, who knows how much...
It undermines the legitimacy. Sorry.
I mean, emotionally, how much this costs. Somebody who is attacked by a man of lesser status and wealth would get less.
Yeah.
So can you put a price on this? It's horrible what he did, and it's very unusual and strange and sad that he is the president, given that I don't think he's a good person, obviously. But there you go.
Still to come, why women drink and it isn't their fault, and why love is lovelier the second time around. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head towards the New Year's period, it's likely to be unsettled, outbreaks of rain and some strong winds too, with multiple Met Office warnings already in force, so do keep an eye on those if you're travelling around for any festivities. But otherwise, this evening we've got a warm front moving into cold air, so not only bringing outbreaks of rain, but also some snow across parts of Scotland, mainly across hills, but we could also see some flurries to lower levels too. And these outbreaks of rain slowly edging their way into parts of Northern Ireland, through into the Scottish borders. It's going to be quite heavy and persistent at times, so a very wet morning to start New Year's Eve. Elsewhere, it's going to be largely dry, plenty of cloud around though, and perhaps some drizzly spots across hilly areas. And for New Year's Eve itself, likely to be a very unsettled day, particularly across Scotland, where we are expecting those heavy and persistent outbreaks of rain, some quite blustery winds, particularly around exposed coasts too, and also snow, particularly across the north of Scotland and Shetland Island as well. And also a very wet start across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England. Once again, heavy and persistent outbreaks of rain at times, but elsewhere largely dry, though it is going to be a rather windy day on offer, particularly in northern areas under all that cloud and rain as it slowly edges its way towards the southeast, eventually clearing parts of Scotland, allowing some brighter spells to develop, but still very windy here and still plenty of blustery showers on offer by the afternoon. Once again, there's a chance these could be falling as snow at times too. Now, by the afternoon, outbreaks of rain generally across northern parts of Wales, northern parts of England, the driest of the weather likely across the far south and southeast. And then for New Year's Day itself, once again very unsettled. Further outbreaks of rain, this slowly once again edging its way towards central and southern parts of the UK. Largely dry to the north of this, though plenty of blustery showers moving through, once again falling as snow at times, and it is going to be feeling cold and remaining cold for the end of the week also. Bye for now.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel. And welcome back to Headliners. Let's have another quick look at the front pages, this time illustrated. The Telegraph, PM knights Khan in reward for failure. That's a quote from his enemies, not from the Queen. King, sorry, I cannot get used to that. Daily Mail, PM's reward for failure as Sadiq Khan is knighted. The Times, public sector plan to trade pensions for higher pay. The Sun, now we want justice for our Liam. Newspaper, post office scandal victims are given honours, but wait for compensation still goes on. And the Daily Star, eggheads, we've cracked baldness. The trick is to eat eggs, funnily enough. So, another study on problem drinking in Tuesday's Daily Mail, Aideen, and it sounds like another little piece of female agency just got dissolved in biometric data.
Thank you for giving me this story, because I am 2.5 years sober, one day at a time.
Are you really?
And I am a woman, yes, indeed.
You gave up in the middle of a year as well. That's interesting.
I had to. It gave up on me. But anyway, this is the time for my story.
Yeah.
So, well, this is a non-story, really. I mean, it is interesting to study women's cycles and to be attuned to them, because when you ovulate, everything is affected. You're more vibrant, you're more creative, you've got more energy. So when a woman isn't ovulating, for instance, she'll dress in a more modest fashion. She'll be attracted to a more mild-mannered man who'd be a good father, like Josh.
Clark Kent.
That's when I go out on the pool.
When she is ovulating, she's attracted to more swashbuckling, testosterone-filled daredevil like yourself. That would flick you away in a second. And
is that a fact?
That is, well, they say that there's a propensity, and I do find it myself, and it is interesting to be tuned. So yes, when you are in that, you might drink more. It's risk-taking.
It almost sounds, and I know hormones change a lot in women, and there are more hormones in the mix. It sounds as if testosterone is higher in the mix then when you're ovulating.
It would be as well.
Because that's the risk-taking hormone, as they say. Yeah.
It definitely is, and that's why you have such a swashbuckling nature as a man, that you just go forth and conquer. And yeah, I think it's great to be aware of these things. I mean, still, having said that, I would say when I go to my recovery groups, and they're like 70% of people are men. So addiction does affect men more, possibly because of their risk-taking behaviour.
Well, this is it.
So it's just an interesting story. It just means watch out, girls.
Do you think that women should take a little ovulation chart with them to the bar and let them have that before they, and they go, can I just check your...
You say watch out, girls. I say watch out, guys, because... What it is if a woman is drinking lots, it means she's about to ovulate, which means that is like the danger time. So if you see a woman binge drinking, don't steer away. And I would say, in talking about the testosterone, it doesn't mention it here, but it's a very interesting bit of information. When women drink, their testosterone levels increase. And it gets to a point where it's a base level of what men are. So, and women just can't handle testosterone, which is why women just get wasted and start fighting and get argumentative and stuff like that. So now, men, we exist on that space all the time. Women can't handle it, which is why I get female hecklers. I don't want to point at you as a female, but women hecklers are the worst. We know that.
It's true, because if you're a male comedian, because you don't...
I think for women as well, surely.
Come back at them hard enough, though. Well, if you're a woman on stage and there's a woman heckling you, then it's a fair fight. But if you're a man on stage and a woman is heckling you...
But you can't defeat a female heckler, is what my point.
No, because you are patriarchs.
It's not because of that. It's because there is no getting through in reason. A bloke you can shame.
Yes,
you're digging now.
It's awkward in general, but I think it definitely just watch out. And people do. I have an app on my phone that tells me when I'm ovulating. It tells you the cycles. You observe things. So people are getting much more in tune. It's very fashionable. And I'll send you the link to the app.
I feel slightly jealous or envious that I don't have a cycle. I have one cycle from birth to death. That's it.
Well, that's a rumour, because men talk about women. Oh, she's very hormonal. Hormones affect women. Testosterone will cause you to start fights and wars. So
absolutely.
You can't be hormonal as well, boys.
Good news for cash organists and various species of celebrant now, Josh, if not for the fertility crisis, sadly, in the Times.
Yeah, older couples bucking the trend of falling marriage rates. So marriage rates have gone down about 20% in the last 30 years. But amongst people over 50s, it has gone up 22% for men and 36% for women, which is really interesting because I guess it would suggest that if you've been through it before, you're going to maybe be optimistic and learn from your mistakes.
Yes, I'm just trying to work out how it can be 22% for one and 36% for the other.
Maybe because they're marrying different ages.
Because they're not all, they're not both divorced necessarily then. That would imply, right?
Yeah, so it's anyway, I think it's what's down in the article, and this is what you were alluding to as well, is that the mean age of the average age of when people get married has gone up again to about 31 and 32. So this is very bad because we need to be having kids. Yeah. And starting late like that is not good for our society.
And yet it's regarded as just completely unsayable, isn't it? You know, to advise people to say, society, listen, you need to do this. You know, it's extraordinarily rude. It's ought to be.
It is. It's a very sensitive topic. I mean, I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and it was absolutely shoved down my neck. Go to university, get a degree. Don't let a man look at you. Don't let them near you. And then, you know, our generation found huge fertility problems.
Yeah. Not as bad as China, but yeah, similar. I don't know what to do at this point. But I think we can probably hope that AI comes through and works out how to clone them quickly, get them up on their feet.
But I'm happy for the older people getting married. That's really good in terms of having a partner through... I think people are realising that it's nice to be with other people.
I mean, is there an argument for the sort of run-around... Do you remember run-around, the old TV quiz show for kids? Where they all had to select an answer from a multiple choice and sort of stand in a line depending which answer they'd chosen. And then there was a bit where they go, when they could all see who had chosen other answers, they could go, run around now, and they could change their mind if they wanted to. I do wonder whether marriage should work like that sometimes. You know, after 20 years, you kind of go, no blame attached, you know. Do you feel like you could...
Is your wife watching this?
Yeah. Swingers party.
Just throw it all up in the air, you know.
Yeah, that's in the bowl. Yeah. What's going on?
I do think there is that thing, like they say, you know, there's a trend among people with young children that they don't name them, or they just give them a provisional name and then they choose their own name at 12.
Oh, my God.
You don't like that?
No, I do not.
I quite like that idea.
No? Children...
Children should
idiots.
Be told what they are. It's not a gender fix thing. It's just like, you call your child Sebastian. At the age of 12, Sebastian goes, I just don't feel like a Sebastian. Can I be a Richard?
It's confusing, though. I had this because I always thought my name was Aideen until I was 12 and I was in a swimming gala. And then I went and got my birth certificate and it turns out my name was Moira, the Gaelic version of Mary, and Aideen was just my middle name. And now I have to sign all my documents as Moira, and I don't relate to being Moira at all.
But you've remained Aideen for commercial purposes.
Moira is just smoking Benson and Hedges. Not a glamorous woman like Aideen. Yeah.
Staying with the fertility crisis, Aideen, or Moira, it seems companies could be doing more, according to The Guardian, but then again, couldn't they always?
Again, this is very interesting because, again, as a self-employed person, I suppose I have a small amount of bitterness about this. Can we have it all? You know, can you have the career and maternity leave and, you know, your fertility? It seems like you have to make a choice and stick with it. And we want our lives to be perfect. And if we can't have a child, people go to extreme lengths to have one and spend an awful lot of money and go through a lot of pain. So I suppose...
We're talking about IVF, broadly speaking.
Yes, I suppose what they're talking about is people having time off. IVF, you know, often they have miscarriages as a result.
Yeah.
I would imagine that most employers would be quite sympathetic to that.
They won't need, like, months and weeks off. It's more like if you have to go out for a couple of hours to an appointment at the hospital without much warning.
On top of that, I think the emotional cost is... You know,
it's a bit of a, what should I call it, isn't it?
Up and down. It would be really hard. And so 19% of managers basically have some kind of formal policy, but 35% of companies don't have these policies. So it makes sense for them to be there, just so that people can know what their options are.
It's an easy win, I would have thought, for the companies. Yeah.
So it's like, I'm ovulating, you ring your husband, you have to go home, that's it, bish, bash, bosh. Nice bit of a break.
I think it's going to catch on, IVF. I think it's going to become more and more popular, actually, even possibly among people who don't technically need it.
Really? What do you think?
because I think they're going to quite soon be able to elevate the degree of choice available to you. Get like 16 embryos, they'll be able to tell you quite a lot about which one is the best. This is my expectation. I am likely to be smeared as a eugenicist now, but I suspect that technology is coming down that pipe. Bad news in the
only thing coming down that pipe.
Bad news in the Express for those of us going on a strictly no Twiglets January diet, Josh. It turns out fad diets can be bad.
Who knew? Yeah, New Year warning that clean eating diets can trigger dangerous addiction. So this is Dr. Nicolette Bogar, PhD student, who was a model for 5 years and has now become a brain box. And essentially, it's just focusing on certain types, like just fish or vegetables or green foods, whatever it is. You can have then deficiencies in other ways. So it's really, it's all about having a balanced diet, which is what everybody always says.
Balanced diet, food pyramid, blah, blah, blah.
They call it orthorexia, and I've noticed because I hang out in recovery communities, let's say, it's a new thing. People are so obsessing about either eating organic, eating keto, that it becomes detrimental to their lives and they have to talk about it with other people. I mean, I did keto for a while and I got so obsessed with it. I mean, I'd stopped menstruating. You know, I lost some hair.
Wow.
I lost several friends because I was no crack and I had bad breath. I was the Lewis Schaefer of Ireland.
I think the worst thing about being on it is that you just talk about it all the time.
I know.
To be fair, though, Lewis has great hair.
Yes,
he does have great hair for 67. Still to come, why mouth breathers become uglier while the rest of us remain perfect and vegans just die. That's the facts. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Here's your GB News winter sun forecast for the first day of 2025, and there will actually be some decent sunshine around, and with that, temperatures for some, including Madeira, actually a few degrees above average. A different story for Barcelona, largely dry, but temperatures, if anything, slightly below what you'd expect, but plenty of dry weather as we head further east, and for places such as Santorini here as well, temperatures a little bit on the mild side. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
After the Hollywood ending that Wrexham Football Club have got, can Chorley FC benefit from a bit of the old celebrity magic dust?
I can't see why not. The guys have been down a few times now, and when they do come down, obviously they're bringing that with them. A little town like Chorley doesn't see much of the charts and big stars, so it's really nice to see them, and we always welcome them when they do come down.
And Mark, give us a flavour of the level of football. I understand you're in the National League North, right? That's 6 rungs down from the top flight. I mean, you're only just down the road from Manchester City, right? But I mean, give us a flavour of the two different worlds between your club and Man City. Our players are all part-timers. So we've got kind of fitness coaches, we've got teachers, we've got all kinds of players who have full-time jobs alongside playing. Our average crowd is probably a tenth of what you get at Man City, probably even less than that. We get about 1,500 on a home game. The thing is, we know where we are and we understand where we are, and we are a real community club. Tonight, I'm ready now. I'm off to Marine, so off over to Merseyside. Playing the likes of Liverpool and Everton over on Merseyside would be kind of a dream come true. But we know where we are. We would just love to get to the Football League. So teams like Salford, Stockport County were in our division a couple of years ago, all flying now in the Football League. We just want to do the same. We sat down with the board last year and they told us the vision for the future, and that vision most definitely is that we want to be a Football League club. When we went to the Premier League, I know the boys have been saying that they 30 years will be in the Premier League and winning it. Well, let's hope we are, and let's hope I'm still around to see that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, It happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30am.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
And welcome back to Headliners. Let's kick off with Tuesday's Mail and neuroscience news, where even by the standards of this evening's fare, Josh, this one sounds like implausible reheated slop.
I don't know. Well, maybe reheated, yes. Top neuroscientist reveals intriguing reason why Brits are getting uglier and how to stop the change happening to you. I don't know why it's Brits specifically, because what they're talking about is mouth breathing here. And what it does is, the argument is that you do that and your chin goes back and then you get, like, big bags under your eyes.
Oh, you get bags under
your eyes. Well, and it changes because you're... So basically, close your mouth is the gist of it.
People actually tape their mouths now. Some people do that.
Well, to sleep, because it can give you bad breath. If you breathe your mouth open, it gives you bad breath. It can rot your gums. So there's a lot to be said for that. But this is the bit that I didn't... There is a bit of science here, which is that it's actually better to breathe through your nose in terms of it goes into the oxygen quicker, and even though obviously breathing in your mouth is more volume, it's actually better. You're going to get more oxygen through your nose, when you're doing sports and things like that.
Do you ever find yourself mouth breathing, Adrian?
I constantly did it when I was young. But now I do the mewing, they call it, where you push the palate of your tongue up to the top roof of your mouth, and it strengthens your face.
Oh, OK, so that's actually trying to build facial structure, yeah. I know a lot of adolescents genuinely get into that, and boys in particular. They all want to look like Rob Lowe, have that kind of...
Special, they're having gum, aren't they, or something, chewing something?
The reality is, as I try and explain to... I've got a 17-year-old son, and he has absorbed this information. If you want to build, anything from jawline or whatever, you've just got to do total body workouts, build all your muscle in total and lower your body fat. That's the only way to do it.
How does that affect your jaw, though?
It will. If you are like
grinning,
if you lift a lot and you don't overeat, your jawline will look good.
But that's probably because you're going like that. That's what it's...
And then you have... I clench my jaw, so... that is...
Deliberately as an exercise or as
I think I started it by accident.
Yeah.
Because I was given out to as a child for having...
Maybe you should get a pipe.
Yeah.
And then you could just chew the pipe stem.
Wow, that would be amazing. I've got the tweed jacket now, I just need the pipe.
Mail again, Nadine, and it seems Dutch scientists are analysing British data to see what effect veganism has on our young men, presumably to see whether it's time to invade yet.
So I don't know why the Dutch scientists are analysing Brits again. The Brits are getting uglier. The Brits are unhealthy. Now, I read the story initially and thought, this is a story about how veganism is unhealthy. But actually, the story is more about how the processed vegan foods we eat are unhealthy. So if you're eating fresh fruit and vegetables, you're fine as a vegan. However, if you're eating all that soy processed, faken and all of these kind of shees, these kind of, I can't believe it's not an udder, whatever they have, that is actually quite unhealthy. And then you have this phenomenon of the soy boy.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how scientifically correct it's that, but that's the idea that these vegan, effete men, are growing mammary glands, and they have very low sex drive, and they have a very low sperm count. Now, if it's true or not, I don't know. But I do think these foods they're very genetically modified. So this is not surprising.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily meaning that veganism itself is bad.
But it's specifically amongst poor vegans.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many poor vegans there are.
Well, I mean, unless they're not even able to afford meat, and so they're trying to make it into a choice.
Maybe, but it feels like vegan seems to be very much a
It's quite
choice
a high
of a middle-classy
status,
thing. So poor vegans...
Let's try and squeeze this last story in before we go, Josh,
Oh, yeah.
because it's your specialist subject. The Guardian have news of a Taiwanese board game.
I'm very excited about this, yeah. New Taiwanese board game offers chance to battle Chinese invasion. They reckon that Taiwan's probably going to get invaded by about 2050. That's when China wants to have their army at its peak.
Right.
That they're working towards. So they launched a campaign. They raised like £100,000 on Kickstarter. As I put the story because I am obsessed with board games. I've got about 2,000 board games, something like that. I'm going to go away now for a few days. The thing I'm most excited with is taking a bunch of board games with me, not to play with anybody, just I will play alone, solo, it's called.
Bless you.
And I will just have a big table, and that's what I'm going to do for the next 4 days.
And will you be buying this one then?
Yeah, I will, I think, actually. It sounds really interesting.
I mean, war games are quite... I remember Risk, that was good.
Yeah,
bits
like that. But these are like more... Yeah, everything's sort of... The way to think about it is things like Risk, like Monopoly is like black and white movies, like it's 100 years old now. Like any art form they've developed. Risk is like 1960s, 70s, and now we're in the sort of Scorsese period.
Well, that is a marvellous summary. The show is nearly over. Let's take a final look at Tuesday's front pages before we go home. The Telegraph, PM knights Khan in reward for failure. Also, Gareth Southgate. Daily Mail, PM's reward for failure as Sadiq Khan is knighted. The Times, public sector plan to trade pensions for higher pay. The Sun, now we want justice for our Leo. The I newspaper has post office scandal victims being given honours, but wait for compensation still goes on. And the Daily Star, eggheads, we've cracked baldness. Eat more eggs. That's all we have time for. Thank you to my guests, Josh Howie and Aidan McQueen. Tomorrow is a GB News New Year's Eve special, but we'll be back the day after that. If you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast. Otherwise, thank you very much for your company and have a very happy New Year.
Happy New Year!
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head towards the New Year's period, it's likely to be unsettled, outbreaks of rain and some strong winds too, with multiple Met Office warnings already in force